Picture a woman standing at her stove on a Tuesday evening, reaching for the same plastic bottle she's reached for 1,000 times before. She pours a little into the pan without even looking at the label anymore. It's just what's there. It's just what her mother used, and what she's used for 40 years. She has no idea that bottle didn't exist when her mother was young. Not in that form. Not anywhere on a dinner table. And the oil it quietly replaced is mentioned in the Bible more than almost any other single ingredient, used to anoint kings, to fuel temple lamps, to heal wounds, and to cook nearly every meal for thousands of years. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what changed in the last century, why that change happened, and one simple swap in your kitchen that brings back what got left out. If you're new here, subscribe to Ancestral Fix. Every week we find what the ancient world knew and what your body still needs. Stay with me. Let's start with the oil in question. Olive oil appears throughout the Old and New Testament, pressed from olive groves across Israel, used in cooking, in lamps, in anointing priests and kings, and offered as a symbol of peace and abundance. When the dove returned to Noah's ark, it carried an olive branch. When Samuel anointed David as king, he used oil. This wasn't a minor detail of ancient life. Olive oil was one of the most valuable and widely used substances in the entire ancient Mediterranean world. Archaeologists have found evidence of olive oil production going back over 6,000 years, with entire economies in the ancient Levant and Greece built around growing, pressing, and trading it. So what happened to it? What was sitting in that woman's kitchen instead? That's where this gets interesting. For most of the 20th century, food manufacturers needed cooking oils that were cheap to produce, had a long shelf life, and could be made from crops grown easily at massive scale. Seed oils like soybean, corn, sunflower, and canola fit that need perfectly. By the middle of the century, these oils had largely replaced traditional fats like olive oil, butter, and lard in most American kitchens, marketed heavily as the modern convenient choice. Here's the part that never gets explained. Getting oil out of a seed like soybean or canola isn't as simple as pressing an olive. Olive oil can be extracted with nothing more than pressure, squeezing the fruit until the oil runs out. The same basic method used in the ancient world. Seeds don't give up their oil that easily. Extracting it typically requires high heat and chemical solvents, followed by a refining process to strip out the impurities and bitterness that come along with that method. Ever wonder why the oil in that plastic bottle never smells like anything at all? Now you know. That refining process is generally associated with the loss of many of the natural plant compounds a whole, cold-pressed oil would normally carry with it. That's really the heart of the difference. It's not that all fat is the enemy. Your body genuinely needs fat, and it always has. It's that the oils that quietly became the default in most kitchens over the last century are processed in a fundamentally different way than what people cooked with for thousands of years before them. Extra virgin olive oil, by contrast, is simply pressed and bottled. Nothing more. That's actually where the name comes from. Virgin means the oil hasn't been chemically altered, just extracted through pressure alone, the same idea used in the ancient world. Along with the fat itself, that process retains a group of plant compounds called polyphenols, which give good olive oil its peppery bite at the back of the throat. Extra virgin olive oil is generally associated with a favorable balance of fatty acids and antioxidant compounds compared to heavily refined seed oils. Let's move into why this matters more specifically after 60. As we get older, the balance of fats in our diet is generally associated with supporting heart and blood vessel health, and extra virgin olive oil's fatty acid profile is a meaningful part of what researchers point to when they study the traditional Mediterranean diet, one of the most extensively studied eating patterns in the world for healthy aging. Now, before you picture throwing out every other oil in your kitchen, that's not what this is about. Different oils have different uses. What we're talking about is your everyday default cooking oil, the one you reach for without thinking, the way that woman at her stove reaches for hers. So here's a small experiment for the next time you're standing in the grocery aisle. Pick up 2 bottles labeled olive oil side by side and look closely, because they are probably not the same product at all. The first thing to check: does it actually say extra virgin or just olive oil? That single word tells you whether it was simply pressed or whether it's been refined and blended with something cheaper to bring the price down. The second thing: is there a harvest date on the bottle, not just an expiration date? Olive oil doesn't age well, and a harvest date tells you far more about freshness than an expiration date ever will. The third: is the bottle dark glass or tin or clear glass sitting under supermarket lighting? Light breaks down the very compounds you're paying extra for. And the last test is the simplest: taste it. Real extra virgin olive oil should have a slight bitterness, sometimes enough to make you cough lightly at the back of your throat. If it tastes like nothing at all, it's probably lost most of what made it worth buying in the first place. Making the switch itself is simple. Keep a good bottle of extra virgin olive oil next to your stove for everyday sautéing, roasting vegetables, and finishing dishes, in place of whatever seed oil is currently sitting there out of habit. For salad dressings, it is often the most noticeable change of all. A good olive oil, a splash of vinegar, and a little salt outperforms most bottled dressings without any real effort. One thing worth mentioning: olive oil has a lower smoke point than some refined oils, so for very high heat searing or deep frying, many traditional Mediterranean cooks reach for a lighter olive oil or another suitable fat, saving the good extra virgin bottle for lower and medium heat cooking, dressings, and finishing. That is not a downside. That is simply how it was always used. Now, if you have spent years hearing that all fat should be minimized as you get older, this next part is worth sitting with. Much of that caution historically focused on saturated fat from processed and fried foods, often eaten in large quantities alongside refined carbohydrates. That is a very different picture from a moderate amount of extra virgin olive oil used as a primary cooking fat, which is exactly the pattern studied in traditional Mediterranean diets. The conversation about fat and heart health is real and still evolving, which is exactly why it is worth a conversation with your doctor if you are managing cholesterol or heart disease. But not every fat and not every oil tells the same story. This is really the same quiet theme running through so much of what we cover on this channel. It is rarely about a single ingredient being good or bad. It is about which version of it you are reaching for without thinking, and how far it has drifted from its original whole form. Let us go back to that woman at her stove. If she swapped that plastic bottle for a good bottle of extra virgin olive oil tomorrow, nothing about her evening would really change. Same pan, same recipe, same 10 minutes at the stove. The only thing different is what is actually going into the food she has spent a lifetime making for the people she loves. Let us come back to where we started. The oil in most kitchens today did not exist 100 years ago, built for cheap, large-scale production rather than for what it could offer your body. The oil it replaced was pressed the same simple way for thousands of years, valuable enough to anoint kings and light temple lamps, and it never actually left. It just got pushed to the back of the shelf. If there is one thing to take from today, let it be this: sometimes the most valuable thing in the room is the one that has been sitting quietly in plain sight the whole time. This video is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult your doctor before making dietary or lifestyle changes, especially if you're managing cholesterol or heart disease. If this kind of gentle, ancestral wisdom speaks to you, consider subscribing, because next time we're looking at the biblical foods seniors are turning to instead of a daily multivitamin and what makes them different. We'd love to have you along.